Millionaire CEO, a black woman, and the homeless child who changed everything. The terminal buzzed under the harsh glow of fluorescent lights, a crowd swirling like a storm around the polished glass and steel of Atlanta's busiest airport. Cameras flashed in rapid bursts, catching the gleam off gold jewelry, the sleek silk of high-end suits, and most of all, the magnetic presence of Amara Davis. She stood tall, draped in power and sharp ambition, her skin like polished mahogany, her gaze piercing through the noise. Millionaire CEO, black woman rising from Atlanta's toughest streets, the headlines screamed. But behind her smile, the weight sat heavy. A second skin wrapped tight and aching. The air was electric, thick with celebration and the sharp scent of expensive perfume. The giant LED screens around the terminal pulsed with videos of Amara's latest breakthrough, her name glowing next to skyscraper shots. A whirlwind of congratulatory smiles circled her, executives bowing like A sharp cough cracked the air, rough, ragged. From the fringes of the crowds, a small figure pushed forward. Malik, a boy maybe 10, ragged jacket too thin against the chill, eyes burning bright with something raw. Desperation mixed with hope that refused to die. His voice cut through the chatter. "Amara Davis, right? I know who you are." Whispers snapped like broken glass. Cameras swiveled. People pressed in. The crowd's hum went tense. Curious, confused, uneasy. Amara froze for the fraction of a second. Malik's gaze locked on her, fierce and unblinking. It was like she saw herself in those worn shoes. The starving kid on the cold streets she never stopped trying to outrun. Her chest tightened. The sharp grip of guilt clawed inside her ribs. Memories crashed like a wave, worn-out shoes slipping through cracks, the cold biting her skin as dreams fought through the dark. Malik wasn't just another homeless kid. He was a mirror to every sacrifice Amara buried under layers of silk and boardrooms. People nudged, shuffling uncomfortably. Someone whispered, "Is she going to say something?" Another voice muttered, "This could get messy." The bright, buzzing celebration derailed into a silent tension. Malik's raw truth spilled out. Simple words, honest and brutal. It's not easy surviving when no one looks, when your story doesn't fit the picture. Amara's throat tightened, hands trembling at her sides. The world seemed to slow. She could feel every eye on her, every phone recording this unexpected moment. Sweat slid down her spine. This was no longer about headlines. It was about a truth that wouldn't be silenced. And then, against every rule she'd learned in boardrooms, she stepped closer. She gave Malik a voice, a brief nod, a quiet invitation to speak out into the roaring silence of the room. The crowd leaned in, the click of cameras like thunder. The airport shifted from a celebration to a battleground of secrets and questions no one dared to ask before. What happens when the price of success becomes a burden you can't hide? When a small act cracks the walls of a life built stone by stone? Amara felt the surge of fear and fierce hope collide. Her empire, Her carefully crafted legacy was on the edge. Could she spread her wings wider without falling apart? Or would this mess of truth drag her down into the shadows she fought so hard to leave behind? The airport noise swelled again, the buzz of whispers, shocked faces, and flashing lights. But inside Amara, time slowed, heart pounding wild. The future wasn't waiting, it was here, waiting for her next move. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And while you're there, drop a powerful like. It really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The airport noise swelled again. The buzz of whispers, shocked faces, and flashing lights. But inside Amara, time slowed, heart pounding wild. Malik's eyes blazed with fear and determination, and amid the escalating tension, a figure emerged from the crowd. Marcus, her estranged brother, the one she thought was lost to the streets forever. Gasping, the crowd parted like the sea as Marcus approached, his gait uneven, shoulders hunched under the weight of years spent in the shadows. The murmurs escalated, rippling through the onlookers like an electric jolt. Amara's breath caught in her throat, the world blurring around the edges. "Muh," he shouted, his voice cracking, a raw sound that dripped with pain. Time stopped. The air grew thick and heavy as Amara staggered backward. Every eye trained on her. The truth was an ice pick to her heart. Malik was her nephew, the child she thought Marcus had abandoned. Beneath the surface of her polished success, buried under layers of denial, guilt surged up like poison. "How can this be? You were lost to us," Amara managed to spit out, shaking from the revelation. Her carefully constructed facade crumbled in the face of those words, each syllable like a strike from fate itself. Malik stood firm, his small fists balled tight, the shadows of abandonment hovering behind him. The crowd gasped in unison, disbelief etched across faces that had moments ago filled with admiration for Amara. "We waited for you." Marcus's voice rose, straining against the weight of the crowd's judgment. "You left us, Amara. You rose so high, but you forgot where you came from. This was his only home, while you built your empire." Amara felt the heat of shame burn hot against her shoulders, the cheers fading into the background hum of regret. Every headline that praised her success now felt tainted, a cruel reminder of the family she had left behind. "Why didn't you find me?" she whispered, desperation clawing at her words. Memories of childhood nights, spent in the darkest corners, flooded back. The hunger, the whispers, the dreams crumpled under urgency. When she had finally escaped, did she truly forget? "I tried, Amara." "You shut everyone out." Marcus's voice cracked, and the crowd shifted, caught between scandal and drama. "Malik has spent years begging for help, and you could have saved him." Malik stepped forward, eyes aflame. You think success makes you better? That it gives you the right to forget? The words shot through the crowd like bullets, the honesty catching everyone off guard. A crack split through Amara's heart. Malik's anger felt justified, yet it was an anger that mirrored her own. In this whirlwind of revelation, guilt and shame swirled like a tornado, each thought spiraling into deeper confusion and chaos. "Aunt Amara," he began, voice quivering, "I thought you were my savior." The weight of it all pressed down, suffocating. For every dollar she earned, every accolade she received, the truth of her roots twisted tighter around her neck. Did she really build her empire on the shattered dreams of her family? Around the terminal, a collective gasp erupted. Eyes flickered. Flashes captured the raw tension. Betrayal lay bare. Amara felt the ground shift beneath her, the foundations of her life shaking. In that instant, everything changed. The applause, the admiration, the carefully curated persona shattered like glass underfoot. An internal conspiracy of silence erupted into chaos, revealing the bonds of kinship that had always lingered just out of reach. Tension crackled, and Amara's mind raced. How does one reclaim the past, the innocence lost? How could she rise above the ashes of her own mistakes? The answers were blurred, but the future, her future, hung in the balance. "Malik, Marcus, it's not over. I can help you," she stammered, the plea tumbling out, desperation igniting hope. But as Marcus shook his head, her heart dropped. "Help?" he spat, fury glittering in his eyes. "It's time you faced your past, not ran from it." And with that, the truth loomed larger, a living beast demanding to be appreciated, acknowledged, and confronted. Where would this collide lead them? The stakes had never felt higher, but Amara stood at a precipice, ready to step into a future that promised pain, but also a chance for redemption. Amara's heart raced, her pleas hanging heavy in the charged air. But Marcus's response slashed through the tension like a jagged knife. "Help? It's time you faced your past, not ran from it." Whispers spiraled, a tide of doubt washing over the crowd as Amara struggled to breathe. This moment, this reckoning, was tearing through her core. She opened her mouth to speak, but words evaporated as an urgent commotion erupted nearby, drowning out all else. A group of security personnel, eyes wide and flashing, surged into the terminal, pushing spectators aside. "Clear the area," one shouted, urgency crawling up his voice, panic palpable. The crowd recoiled, mouths agape. "What's happening?" someone gasped, craning to see, and then the inevitable hush fell, silence thick enough to slice. Amara felt it, a rush, a primal instinct that something was dreadfully wrong. She turned her head, eyes searching the throng of bodies, when suddenly a man burst through, gasping for breath, his face pale, eyes wild. "Get down! There's no time!" he howled before falling to his knees. The crowd gasped collectively, confusion morphing into horror. In that moment, the world stilled. The man, disheveled and panicked, stole the spotlight. "They're coming!" he croaked, frantically scanning the faces, as if searching for unknown allies. "They're after the list! They won't stop until it's gone!" Behind him, a flicker of movement caught Amara's attention. An imposing figure, steely and shadowed, swept through the throng, scanning the crowd with a cold intensity that sent shivers down her spine. This wasn't a guard, it was something far more dangerous. Marcus's expression twisted from shock to fear, his focus shifting from Amara to the figure now striding closer. "No, not him," he murmured, the realization crashing over him, his eyes widening in horror. "Wait!" Amara cried, instinctively taking a step forward. But Marcus yanked her back, eyes frantic. "He's not just after the list. He's here for us. For you." "What do you mean?" Amara's voice trembled, the world swirling into chaos around her. "Malik," Marcus whispered, eyes darting from her to his son. "He's not just a boy. You need to know who you're really dealing with." The utterance shattered her senses. "Malik?" The air pulsed with an unbearable weight. Reality splintering. Before she could process the accusation, the stranger lunged. In a flash of movement, he swept Malik into his grasp, strong arms encircling the boy with unrelenting force. "No!" Amara screamed, the shattering realization twisting her stomach. She surged forward, adrenaline roaring in her ears, but Marcus's grip held her back, igniting a fire of desperation. "You don't understand! Malik is more than you think. He's the key!" The revelation struck like thunder, a searing light, bursting through her confusion. Key? What did that mean? What truth lay buried beneath that unassuming facade? As Malik twisted, fighting against the figure's grip, a soft voice broke through the commotion, clear and steady amidst the chaos. "Aunt Amara, I'm not just your nephew. I have something you need, something that connects what happened to us to you." Shock rippled through Amara like a shockwave. The crowd gasped, whispers crescendoing into a frenzy, the reality of unmasking spiraling like an electric current. And just then, a sinister grin crept across the stranger's face, chilling Amara to her bones. "Then it looks like the game has only just begun." The truth of her family, the weight of their hidden history, coiled tighter around her, and the realization that everything she had fought for was built on layers of deceit flooded in, a cascade of questions thickening the air. Could she truly reclaim her past? Or was it all a trap, one she couldn't escape? In that moment, among the chaos of confusion and heart-pounding dread, one thing was clear. The stakes were higher than S. The massive terminal buzzed with dread, an electric tension sparking through the crowd as Amara's world twisted violently on its axle. The stranger's grip tightened around Malik, eyes glinting like shards of ice, sending chills racing down her spine. Her heart hammered as panic erupted from the depths of her gut. "Let him go!" she shouted, her voice threaded with desperation, yet swallowed by the thrumming chaos. Marcus shifted, his expression igniting with an intensity that lit fear in Amara's chest. "You don't understand," he growled through clenched teeth, panic igniting a fierce urgency. "This isn't about Malik. They're all after you, Amara. After the truth." "What truth?" she spat, frustration bleeding into her tone as she fought to break free from Marcus's grip. "I just want my family safe." But then the chaos erupted anew as the stranger released a menacing laugh, reverberating through the air like a death knell. "Ah, sweet Amara, your naive innocence is truly charming." With a sudden, violent motion, he pushed Malik toward the terminal floor with a forceful shove. The boy stumbled, but stood firm, determination igniting his young frame. "Listen closely, or this may be your last chance," the stranger said, his voice low and unforgiving, weaving tension back into the fabric of the moment. Wide-eyed, the crowd leaned in, breath held. "Malik is not just a pawn in a family drama. He holds the key, literally, to everything your empire stands upon." "What?" Amara blurted out, confusion and terror weaving into her words, her mind swirling like a blizzard. "Your company," he continued, his eyes glinting like frozen steel. "Those charitable initiatives, the lofty successes, each one built on the pain of the marginalized, the stories that you silenced. Malik, he's the last of a lineage that threatens to expose everything." The weight of his implication dropped hard against Amara's chest. "What lineage? You're lying," she shot back, disbelief coiling around her like steel chains. But before the stranger could answer, the ground beneath them trembled, vibrations reverberating up through her sneakers. An explosion, a shockwave, smothering the air, blew through terminal windows, showering glass shards like crystal rain. Screams painted the atmosphere, swirling chaos erupting around them as the crowd scattered, drowning in fear. "Malik!" Amara screamed, her voice splintering into shards of terror. But the boy, refusing to give in, scrambled toward her, eyes wide with comprehension and something deeper, a fury rallying behind his small stature. As she caught him against her, the stranger's laughter rang hollow through the tumult, a haunting melody that twisted into the screams echoing around them. "You think you can escape this, Amara? The truth has claws, sharp enough to tear the fabric of your world apart." His words crashed over her, echoing in the chaos that surrounded them. "You're not just a CEO, you're a target. You see, there are those who know exactly what lies beneath your glitzy success." "I won't let you take him!" Amara screamed, fury igniting hope in her chest, pushing through the chaos. "That's not your decision to make." The stranger's voice dripped icily, catching their attention in the tumbling tumult of bodies. "I'm here to ensure the family secret doesn't stay buried any longer." Then, in a movement that paralyzed the world around her, the stranger revealed an ornate locket from his pocket, laying it bare, a familial crest glinting in the fluorescence. It was a symbol from a life Amara had tried to outrun. "I'm your brother," he declared, bitterness curling his lips. "The one you forgot." Time froze, shockwaves rippling through the crowd, the truth folding over the gathered spectators like a tidal wave. Amara felt darkness descend once more, the bare bones of her identity cracking open, spilling secrets into the glaring light. And then there was only the weight of what it meant for everything she held dear. As shadows stretched out behind her, ready to snatch her back into their cold embrace, the chaos swelled, a living entity, wrapping around them like a vice. Amara's heart raced, the revelation of her brother's identity hitting like a freight train. The stranger's smirk deepened, as though her shock was a concoction he'd stirred with pleasure. "Surprised to see me, dear sister?" His voice dripped with mockery, the tension boiling over every second, every breath growing heavier, more suffocating. The crowd shifted with a Malik, still at Amara's side, squirmed, eyes darting back and forth between them. "What are you talking about?" he yelled, fighting for clarity, his small stature misaligned with the ferocity of his voice. The crowd fell silent, breaths held, waiting for the calculated turn of events, the unfurling of family secrets. "Isn't it clear, Amara?" her brother continued, disdain seeping from his words. "You thought you could climb to the top and forget us? You think your empire is untouchable, but I'm here to remind you, the truth always surfaces. We're all tied to the same dark root." Marcus recoiled, eyes wide with realization. "You've always been the family traitor. Jason, you think coming back will change anything? You think you're safe now?" There was a tremor of venom, a twisted protectiveness that cut between them. "You'll see, Marcus. You don't know what's brewing beneath the surface," Jason retorted, voice low and dangerously smooth. Then, a sharp scream erupted in the terminal. Eyes jumped toward the source. Staring wide-eyed stood a middle-aged woman, shaking like a leaf against the frigid backdrop of the terminal walls. "No! No! It can't be true!" she cried out, clutching a crumpled paper in one hand, her features distorted by panic and desperation. Panic flickered through the crowd like wildfire. Amara's blood ran cold, dread coiling around her as dread coiling deeper. "What are you talking about?" She stepped closer, heart racing, certain she needed answers, as her mind raced through countless darkened corridors of the past. The woman, trembling and pale, gasped for breath. "The kidnapping, the list. You have no idea what it leads to. Jason isn't only here for secrets. He's connected to something much bigger. They want you, Amara. Everyone wants the lineage, your lineage." A thick silence descended, as if the tension had physically transformed the air into ice. The camera clicks around them shuddered into silence. All eyes turned to Amara, the embodiment of a collective, gasping shock. "What lineage? What do you mean?" Amara whispered, feeling her heart in her throat, every moment seeming to stretch endlessly. The truth seemed to pulsate, throbbing beneath the surface, begging to break free. And then the woman dropped the paper, allowing it to unfurl like a tragic banner, revealing a family tree, each name a silent coven of ghosts, except something was glaringly wrong. Jason's name was not just inscribed, but highlighted in bold, connected to multiple illustrious figures, each filled with lineage and power that reached back generations. This isn't just about our family. It's about dynasties. It's about the legacy you never wanted into your life. The weight of the realization struck Amara like a tidal wave, crashing against the shores of her reality. The splintering of everything she thought she knew. Jason wasn't just a brother. He was a harbinger of something darker, a spiral of greed and betrayal that had snaked into her very foundation. The world twisted, darkness woven. You mean we're part of something? Something bigger? The weight of familial burden pressed down like a stack of stones, and her mind swirled. Dizzying, overwhelming. Jason's smile turned into a sneer, eyes glinting with a mix of triumph and malice. Welcome home, Amara. This is just the start. You've only begun to uncover the truth about what family really means. And if you think running from it will save you, well, it's time to learn otherwise. But of course, they'll come for you. They always do. As the crowd held its breath, an underlying shadow crept up Amara's spine. A dangerous realization loomed overhead. A threat curling into the very roots of her empire, poised to snatch her from the very success she fought for. In her gut, a whisper ignited, carrying her towards an unexpected path of retribution, an uncharted destiny that beckoned from the shadows. How did it come to this? She needed to uncover everything before it consumed her entire world. And beneath the chaos, a tide pulled them all deeper into a darkness she could no longer ignore. As the crowd echoed with shock, the scent of treachery thickened in the air, wrapping around Amara like chains. One thing was painfully clear. The cure for the past wouldn't be easy to swallow, nor would the truth leave any survivors. The oppressive air crackled with tension, suffocating and electric. Amara's world teetered on the brink, each heartbeat echoing in her ears as Jason's words twisted around her like vines, threatening to choke the very breath from her lungs. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers snaking through the throng. Fear, shock, the taste of betrayal mixing in the air, thick enough to slice. "Welcome home, Amara." Jason's smirk emerged. "You've only just begun to uncover the truth about what family really means. And if you think running from it will save you, well, it's time to learn otherwise." Before Amara could process his words, chaos erupted again. A heavy crash resonated from the other side of the terminal, setting off a chain reaction of gasping breaths. An explosion of sound, sirens wailing, security personnel rushing in, walls rattling. Panic rose like a tsunami, shoving against the crowd, and the once muted terminal transformed into a cauldron of chaos. "Malik!" Amara screamed, her voice breaking through the tumult. But the boy was already pulled away by the crowd's urgency. "Look out!" a bystander yelled, just as a flurry of people sprinted past them, dragging at the edges of the life Amara had painstakingly built. Amid the chaos, a flash of orange caught Amara's eye, a flicker that felt out of place. She turned to see a figure sprinting through the throng. The crowd jostled back and forth, ignorance swirling as the figure weaved closer. Suddenly, clarity hit. The stranger was dressed in black tactical gear, eyes wide with an urgent recklessness that sent a wave of nausea through Amara's gut. "Stop him!" Jason's voice boomed, fury intertwined with fear as he pointed toward the approaching figure. "He's one of them!" "Who are you?" Amara shouted, battling through the chaos, her heart thudding against the ribcage of dread. But the stranger only pushed forward, urgency overriding caution. In a heartbeat, he lunged, past Amara, past Jason, directly toward Malik. "Get away from him!" Amara's scream clawed its way up her throat as dread coiled, gripping her like a vice. But then, just as the man reached Malik, a deafening bang blasted through the air. Bullets whizzed like angry hornets, striking the ground near the boy's feet, and everything shattered. Glass sprayed like falling cherry blossoms, chaos escalating into a blanket of confusion. "Malik!" Amara cried, lunging forward, adrenaline surging through her body like liquid fire. As the smoke filled the space, her world compressed. She had to save him, no matter the cost. Then, out of the cloud of chaos emerged a figure, a woman. Not just any woman, but one who carried an unmistakable grace, despite the disarray. She stepped through the chaos, poised as if it all slowed for her. "Stop! Everyone freeze!" she commanded, her voice a silken thread woven through the deafening screams. Time hung suspended in the electric air. A collective gasp swept the crowd as the woman raised her hand, revealing a badge. FBI, the word sliced through the havoc like a knife through butter. Jason recoiled, eyes wide with shock. "No, it can't be," he murmured, disbelief etched into his features. The realization crashed over Amara like icy water, awakening something buried deep within her. "What do you mean?" she gasped, staring at the woman, then at Jason. The agent's eyes zeroed in on Amara, steady and unwavering, her voice low as she spoke. "Amara Davis, we need to talk. The lineage, the secrets, they go deeper than you know." Jason's expression shifted from disbelief to fury. "You think you can take her? She's mine to deal with. Enough of your lies." But the woman smiled, a calculated grin. "You have no idea what you're up against. This isn't just family drama. It's a web you can't escape. And what's more, Amara, your legacy is darker than you think." Just as the ground beneath her seemed to tilt, Amara's breath caught at the revelation. Her lineage, her identity, entangled in a web she'd never even seen. A chill sprinkled down her spine as the woman drew closer. "You have a choice, Amara. Embrace your past or become a pawn in a game bigger than any of us." Everything started to implode, emotions swirling like leaves caught in a tempest. "No," Amara breathed, the revelation echoing in her mind as the weight of secrets hung over her like a noose. And in that moment of frozen time, with the chaos swirling around, it was clear. Everything she thought she knew, every piece of her carefully constructed life, teetered on a precipice, begging to be unraveled, exposing layers of deception she never imagined. The stakes rose higher with each whispered truth. Secrets waiting to be spilled. "What do you know?" Amara found herself asking, voice barely a whisper, desperate, yet undeniable. The woman's smile widened, a flicker of dark amusement dancing in her eyes. "Let's just say, your entire empire might be built on blood, including your own." And as she spoke, Amara realized the world around her, once vivid and bright, had transformed into a shadow. But within the turmoil, a spark ignited. If secrets were to be unearthed, she would be the one to dig them up. The future had a sinister edge, a promise of darkness and revelation that awaited just beyond the horizon. And for Amara, there would be no turning back. The oppressive air crackled with tension, suffocating and electric. Amara's world teetered on the brink, each heartbeat echoing in her ears as Jason's words twisted around her like vines, threatening to choke the very breath from her lungs. The crowd shifted uneasily, whispers snaking through the throng, fear, shock, the taste of betrayal mixing in the air, thick enough to slice. "Welcome home, Amara." Jason's smirk emerged sharper than ever, piercing through the veil of confusion. "You've only just begun to uncover the truth about what family really means. And if you think running from it will save you, well, it's time to learn otherwise." Before Amara could process his words, chaos erupted again. A heavy crash resonate. Panic rose like a tsunami, shoving against the crowd, and the once muted terminal transformed into a cauldron of chaos. "Malik!" Amara screamed, her voice breaking through the tumult, but the boy was already pulled away by the crowd's urgency. "Look out!" a bystander yelled, just as a flurry of people sprinted past them, dragging at the edges of the life Amara had painstakingly built. Amid the chaos, a flash of orange caught Amara's eye, a flicker that felt out of place. She turned to see a figure sprinting through the throng, adrenaline-fueled determination painted across their face. The crowd jostled back and forth, ignorance swirling as the figure weaved closer. Suddenly, clarity hit. The stranger was dressed in black tactical gear, eyes wide with an urgent recklessness that sent a wave of nausea through Amara's gut. "Stop him!" Jason's voice boomed, fury intertwined with fear, as he pointed toward the approaching figure. "He's one of them." "Who are you?" Amara shouted, battling through the chaos, her heart thudding against the ribcage of dread. But the stranger only pushed forward, urgency overriding caution. In a heartbeat, he lunged, past Amara, past Jason, directly toward Malik. "Get away from him!" Amara's scream clawed its way up her throat as dread coiled, gripping her like a vice. But then, just as the man reached Malik, a deafening bang blasted through the air. Bullets whizzed like angry hornets, striking the ground near the boy's feet, and everything shattered. Glass sprayed like falling cherry blossoms, chaos escalating into a blanket of confusion. "Malik!" Amara cried, lunging forward, adrenaline roaring in her ears. But Marcus's grip held her back, igniting a fire of desperation. "You don't understand. You need to protect him." The ground beneath them seemed to tremble, darkness pooling at their feet. But before Amara could digest the panic swirling, the woman in tactical gear turned and shouted, "Everyone down!" Time hung, suspended, as bodies fell to the floor, scrambling for safety, the terminal morphing into a battleground. In that chaos, Jason yelled, "This isn't your fight!" Rage pulsed through him. He looked almost frantic. Amara's heart raced. She couldn't let Jason take over. "No, this is my family." She scanned the chaos for Malik, every noise growing louder. Shouts mingled with cries, until a chilling laugh erupted from the stranger still watching, his eyes glistening with a manic light. "Oh, but you have no idea." He lifted his arm, revealing a hidden device, a small detonator glinting ominously in his palm. "Your family's secrets run deeper than simple blood ties. Let me show you." Suddenly, every face in the terminal turned pale. The woman in tactical gear rushed forward, determination etched in her features. "No!" she screamed. "We can't let you do this!" "Stand back!" the man barked, a thrill of power surging through him. The truth will out, but before he could finish, the detonator slipped from his grip, spiraling into the maelstrom of desperate hands. A flurry of movements. People dove, reaching out, trying to secure it. It was like a dark ballet, each motion echoing the fear vibrating in the air. Then, from the corner of Amara's vision, a figure, small, desperate, leapt forward. "Malik! No!" she shouted, panic gripping her heart. He lunged for the device, eyes full of fierce determination. "I'll show them." The line between courage and foolishness blurred as he grasped the detonator just before it hit the ground. Everyone froze. Time warped, breaths held. He lifted it slightly, and that's when Jason's face twisted in recognition. "What have you done? That wasn't just for the truth. It's a power switch." "What do you mean?" Amara cried, eyes wide, feeling all sense of security crumble. Malik's face, once bright with youthful hope, transformed. "You don't understand. I'm not just your nephew. I'm the key," he said, voice trembling. "And the truth I've been hiding is worse than anything." In that moment, as the realization swept through the crowd, a deep, rumbling roar echoed from below, an unseen threat erupting like a volcano. The ground shook. Bodies staggered. Hands gripped desperately for support. It spiraled. Silence shattered into a storm of motion. As the detonator flicked, a wave of realization struck Amara, harder than any blast. Malik was not merely another victim in a family tangled by secrets. He was their catalyst. The twin echoes of family and betrayal crashed together, leaving Amara gasping for clarity. What path lay ahead when even her own blood became the fulcrum of chaos? The key to something far more unfathomable than she had ever dared to dream? The stakes had never been higher, and the revelation loomed. Truths buried in blood and fire awaited. The ground beneath them shook with an urgency that felt primal, a deep rumble reverberating through the terminal's steel framework, gnawing at the edges of Amara's sanity. "Malik, no!" she screamed, the boy's small form silhouetted against chaos, clutching the detonator as if it were the last remnant of hope. Jason shouted, his eyes wide with a mixture of fury and fear. You have no idea what you're toying with." As he lunged forward, everything screeched to a halt. The world blurred, every heartbeat amplified, drowning out the sirens and screams around them. In that cocoon of silence, Amara felt a shift that pulled her into a gravity well of fate. The detonator slipped from Malik's fingers, tumbling to the floor. The echo of metal against tile shattered the stasis. A dissonant chime in the orchestral chaos surrounding them. Before she could breathe, the detonator emitted a soft beep, and the floor exploded into tremors beneath their feet. A blinding light pierced through the chaos, the terminal illuminated in a harsh glare. The explosion occurred not in a devastating fireball, but in a brilliant flash. Stun grenades. Shouts erupted as people clamored to escape the blinding light. In that moment of disorientation, Jason seized his chance, darting toward Malik, eyes wild and predatory. But just as he reached for the boy, a figure emerged from the smog of confusion, unfurling like a dark angel. Amara could scarcely believe her eyes as recognition struck her like a thunderbolt. It was her mother. Not just in spirit, but physically, dressed in tactical gear, her face set with a determination that transcended time and pain. "Step away from him. Now," her mother's voice commanded, powerful and unwavering, slicing through the cacophony, as if no years of estrangement had passed. Amara's heart twisted with a maelstrom of feelings, countless memories flooding back, laughter, warmth, the whispers of a childhood lost. "Mom?" The word escaped her lips as a question, both a plea and an acknowledgement that everything she thought she knew was unraveling. Jason froze, eyes widening in disbelief. You're supposed to be gone." But their mother stepped forward, a protective barrier, muscles taut like a drawn bowstring. "I've never left, Jason. Not really. I was watching, waiting." Her gaze darted to Amara, a mixture of pride and sorrow breaking through her fierce exterior. "We'll talk later, but you have to trust me now." The weight of those words sunk into Amara, twisting through her heart like barbed wire. What secrets lay intertwined in this family web? "Trust you?" she echoed, disbelief tangling with love. "You abandoned us." "Not by choice." Her mother's voice cracked but held firm. "There are things we need to unearth. Things too dangerous for the likes of Jason." With that, Jason recoiled, the rage seeping back into his eyes. "So this is your plan? To turn against your own blood? You've betrayed everything for this illusion, Mom." "An illusion?" Her mother scoffed, stepping closer. "Your life is the illusion. It's built on treachery, blood, a legacy you've twisted for your own means. And you, Amara, are right at its center." As the tension rippled through the air, the unseen threat, hidden in their family's past, unfurled into view, exposing raw, bleeding secrets that clung to Amara like smoke. "What?" Malik exclaimed, eyes darting between them, confusion seeping into his voice. The boy grasped her hand, grounding her amidst the chaos. And then, as the waves of panic morphed into focused intent, Amara's mother declared, The locket. It holds the key to everything. Key? Jason laughed, maniacal. What's next, dear old mom? A family reunion? But the laugh faded abruptly as Amara's insight cracked open. The weight of generations whispered through her veins. Why? What does it unlock? She pressed, urgency sparking like flint against steel, awakening an energy she didn't realize existed. With a shattering calmness, her mother drew a small, ornate locket from her pocket, cradling it like the most precious artifact. Small, intricate, and burdened with significance. It's not just history, it's our future. In that moment of fragile reckoning, where time felt suspended in air thick with desperation, the crowd's chaos faded into a dull roar, the truth of her lineage hanging heavy. What lay hidden inside the locket? The answer felt as elusive as a wisp of smoke, burning with the promise of light and darkness intertwined. Jason's shock morphed into a desperate resolve as whispers rippled through the crowd. No, you don't understand what you're meddling with, Amara. And at that instant, the world tilted on its axis. Malik, still holding tightly to Amara, whispered, "I can't let this happen." The innocent determination lacing his words, igniting the deepest fears within her soul. As Amara faced the fractured remnants of the family she thought she'd escaped, the shadows of the unknown shifted closer, the stakes weaving together in an intricate web of inheritance. What awaited them in the heart of their shared legacy? The locket felt like a ticking time bomb, each second pulling them deeper into darkness. And with their choices looming large, the narrative spiraled into an abyss of revelation, filled with threats yet undefined. The weight of revelation hung thick in the air, the locket gleaming. "Amara," her mother said, voice low yet intense, "you don't understand what this locket holds. It's a birthright, our birthright." Jason scoffed, brushing her words aside. "You think you can just waltz back in and reclaim what you never wanted?" His voice dripped with scorn, but there was a flicker of doubt, a crack in his furious facade. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled again, the echo of distant footsteps resonating against the terminal walls. A sudden stillness returned, like the calm before an ugly storm. Amara's heart skipped. She could almost smell the impending danger, metallic and oily, clinging to the air. "Listen to her!" Malik's voice rang out, youthful bravado piercing through the silence. The determination in his young eyes ignited something inside Amara, a spark of fierce protection, yet beneath it quivered the dread of uncertainty. And that's when it happened. A low, ominous rumble erupted through the crowd, and all eyes turned toward the entrance, where dark figures began to appear. Their uniforms and masks distorted their identities, but the sharp outlines suggested terror. "FBI," one shouted, brandishing a weapon. "Hands in the air!" Screams resounded, panic flooding the terminal as people scrambled for safety, shoving against each other. Amara's world spun, and the panic surged, tightening her chest. "No! Malik!" She reached for the boy, but he was lost in the chaos, adrenaline overriding the sense of fear that gripped her. Suddenly, a crackle of noise filled the air. a voice booming from the dark figures. "We know who you are, Amara Davis. You can't hide from the truth." The crowd gasped, and Amara felt cold dread crawl down her spine. How could they know her? But as the chaos unfolded, an unexpected figure surged through the crowd, a familiar face, one that sent sharp pain flooding through Amara's heart. It was her father. He pushed himself forward through the swarm, breaths taut, expression fierce. The crowd parted with gasps of shock. A silence descended over everything as he stood in front of them, unmistakably alive. "Enough!" he bellowed, cutting through the turmoil. "There's only one way to finish this." "Dad?" Amara choked out, the incredulity washing over her. "I thought you were gone. How?" "I never abandoned you," he said, voice fierce as steel. "You were just too young to remember. I've been kept away to protect this family from a sinister legacy. Your lineage is the least of it. It's what we can betray, the power they'll do anything to harness." A collective intake of breath rattled through the crowd, whispers spiraling like tendrils of fear. Malik's grip tightened on Amara's hand. The truth widened before her like a chasm, and she felt dizzy with it. "Maybe you should listen," her father continued, voice steady despite the storm brewing around them. "Your mother and I, we were part of something monumental, and now they want it back." The locket slipped from her mother's grip, falling to the ground. The sound echoed like the strike of a gavel. The connection snapped, a sudden disjunction in their fragile reality. As the stillness replaced the chaos, Amara's world began to tilt violently again. The air electrified with danger and dread. The figure in the front, masked and menacing, stepped forward. "You think it's over? Think again," he exclaimed, and with a swift motion, he pressed something small into the palm of Jason's hand. A flicker of light captured in a glint of metal. "Regina!" Jason's face contorted, the shock rattling through his facade, a mere cover for something darker simmering below. "How could you?" In that instant, recognition dawned. Jason's brow creased with betrayal, eyes wide with understanding. The air shattered with the weight of that exchange, and all at once, everything about Jason shifted. "Wait!" Amara gasped, her mind racing. "Regina? Who is Regina?" She turned, confusion multiplying. The realization hit with a visceral punch. The twisted bonds of loyalty were unraveling fast, and in that fractured moment, something more sinister unfurled. A betrayal that seeped through the very fabric of their family. Jason laughed, maniacal and hollow. "Oh, she's not who you think she is. We're all tangled in this web, and I'm the only one who knows the truth." The locket glinted, bright against the chaos, as he swept his arm toward Amara's father, pulling them all toward an abyss of explosive truth. And just like that, the ground shifted beneath Amara's feet. The air grew thick with secrets swirling like smoke. Every glimmer of hope dimmed, choked by the darkness of betrayal. What lay behind this newfound revelation expanded like ink on paper, threatening to change everything. Nothing was as it seemed. And in that moment, one thing was painfully clear. The battle for their freedom had only just begun, and the ties that bound them would either connect or engulf them entirely. Everything hung in the balance. her family, her future, her very identity. "Enough of this!" her mother shouted, stepping forward, the locket still grasped tightly in her hand. "We're family. We'll face whatever may come together," filled with a fire she didn't know she had. "You can choose to drown in our past, or break free and reconnect with who we truly are." The crowd fell silent, eyes flickering from Jason to Amara. Malik clutched her hand tightly, the warmth grounding her amidst the storm. "You're not alone, Jason," he said, his small voice rising above the tension. "You have family right here." Those simple words hung in the air, a beacon of truth cutting through the chaos. Jason's shoulders sagged, the fight in him dimming. The fire of vengeance wavered, and for the first time, uncertainty crept in, shadowing his anger. "Family." Jason whispered, the word tasting foreign. A flicker of something, vulnerability, regret, passed through his eyes. Amara took a step forward, a gentle plea in her tone. "Yes, a messy, complicated family, but one worth saving. We can unravel what binds us in chains and weave something stronger instead." The room felt charged with potential, a tension between despair and hope. Their mother reached out, holding the locket high. "This holds the truth, the key to our healing, but we must want it together." She looked each of them in the eyes, her gaze strong yet tender. Jason's facade cracked, emotion bleeding through. "And if I can't face it?" He sounded small, vulnerable. "Then we face it together," Amara assured. And in that moment, she saw the outlines of what they could become. A family willing to mend the fractures brought upon by secrets. A newfound energy ignited. The dark figures, eyeing from the edges, recoiled as Jason relaxed, his mask slipping. Forgiveness rolled softly into the air, like a soothing balm. They could turn this darkness into light, if they chose. The crowd started to disperse, uncertainty mixing with hope. Amara turned to Malik, whose eyes sparkled with the innocence of possibility. "I believe in us," he said simply, and it melted her heart. Amara squeezed his hand, anchoring herself in the moment. "So do I." As they stood together, her mother quietly placed the locket into Amara's palm. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "Together we'll write a new story," Amara replied, ready to face whatever came next. And in the midst of the chaos, a soft breeze swept through the terminal, rustling papers and whispering untold tales. Was it really over? Or was this just a turn in the winding path of their lives? You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to keep the algorithm happy. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And share this video right now with at least 5 friends who need to know how this saga unfolds. Don't wait another second. Support the channel and be part of this amazing journey.